Good morning. We are actually on the side of my house today. I have these hostas that you can, I guess, over here you can see one. I need to dig these up. The chickens have really destroyed them. They need to be split something terrible. So I'm going to dig them up, split them, and I have a spot in the garden that I think these will work out nicely, and I'm going to set some aside for my mother-in-law. So I'm just going to take you guys along while I dig up those hostas. And I also have a few things around the front that I need to dig up. The chickens are really just destroying these flower beds up at the front of the house because they can get in them anytime they want. And I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with the flower beds yet, but for now I need to take everything out because destroyed plants is not cute. So before we get started, I do have a few updates. I guess some of the stuff I'll walk around and show you later. Just progress we're making on getting supplies for the greenhouse, progress in the garden, the strawberry beds we did last week, and then a kind of sad update. We lost one of our roosters over a week ago, last Monday. Fitz, the blue coaching rooster. I'm not really sure what happened. He was having some respiratory problems that I was trying to treat him for. And in the time I went to the feed store to pick up a few different things to try and got back home, he had passed away. None of the other chickens have any weird symptoms going on. Like I said, it's been over a week. Everyone else is fine and healthy. So I don't know if it was something with him specifically or if he got into something. You know, we do have toxic plants around the property, native and ones that I've planted that, I don't know. I'm sad, but he was kind of a rooster that was a little bit of a turd. He really liked to chase my son. So, and he's kind of a little rough with the girls. A lot of them have bald spots on the back of their head from him pulling their feathers out. So it has been a little more peaceful here, not having him here, but I do feel bad about how he went out. So on to more fun things. We're gonna get digging up these hostas. So I have no idea what type they are. They came with the property. The ones on the front are the green ones with the white edges, and these are like a darker solid green. Hostas are pretty sturdy, so trying to leave as much of the root ball as I can. But this is the big plant, and of course it's all compacted in there. Oh my goodness, let's drop it a few more times. Oh. I'm sure these haven't been split from when they were planted years ago. Oh my goodness. The previous homeowner. Okay, if the root ball is not this tight, usually you can pull them apart a little bit. Because this one is so tight, I'm just going to take my shovel and chop it. So now I have two smaller clumps. This could get broken up a lot more, but I have 4 other plants back here I need to dig up, so I'm not going to break them up that much. I think I'm just going to split each one in half, and I will keep going. So I have my wheelbarrow full of the split hostas. I'm not even going to fill those holes back in because the chickens love to dust bathe over here, and they will come through and fix that for me. Did want to show you my lilac is going to bloom. Excuse my dirty fingers. First time of being in this house. There's one on this corner of the house and one on that corner. I have wanted to move these elsewhere ever since we moved in because they're not in good spots for lilac. These are pretty shady spots. I'm actually surprised this one's going to bloom at all, but this is where they need to be for now. Whenever we get, hopefully, all of these trees cleared up around the front, I might put them up around the driveway somewhere. So now these beds had hostas. I don't see any coming back yet. The chickens really annihilated them last year. Oh, maybe I do start to see some spikes coming up through the ground right here. But my goal is to get these dug up before the chickens annihilate them, and that way they'll look nice just right away in the garden this year, and then they won't be up here for the chickens to eat. And then I have all of these coming up, which I'm pretty sure are hyacinth. Yeah, and the chickens have been beating on those as well, so I'm also going to dig those up. I have some bee balm mixed with a ground cover. I'm assuming that's just a type of lamium. And here, this is a red bee balm, which isn't my favorite. So I'll leave the bee balm here because the chickens haven't really messed with it. And if they do eat it, that's fine. It's not going to hurt them. But I do want to take a little bit of that ground cover because I really like the look of it. This thing back here, I'm pretty sure is a weed, but it has really pretty pink flowers and it hasn't really spread. So I've just left it. And the same thing I'll be doing over here. There's a few little hyacinth popping up that I need to move to the garden. They're not going to do anything this year because they've already been beat on by the chickens, but at least they'll be in a better spot for next year. And I need to try and locate the hostas, and this is probably the clump of ground cover that I'll take. And then we've got some more bee balm, and I'm not sure what that is. Kind of looks like mint. Doesn't smell like anything though. I'm not sure. But this is the other lilac. So if you have any good ideas about how to redo the front with something more chicken proof that will still look nice. This is the front of our house. It's not very cute, but you know, it is what it is. I was kind of thinking of just getting more pots and just doing pots, you know, every year adding a pot or two on each side and planting those. Yes, the chickens can get into them, but they don't really, so it should be okay. I just really didn't want to put a fence around here because one, I don't think it'll look nice, and two, for it to be tall enough for the chickens to not get into, it would look pretty ridiculous. So I'm gonna get all these dug up. Oh, that's my pile of buckets from maple syrup. I haven't washed them yet. That's where they've been stored. So I need to get back to work digging these up, and then we will move into the garden again. It started to sprinkle, so I just got the hyacinth dug up, and I'll go back for the other hostas later after I get all of these planted. But so I think I'm going to take the hyacinth and plant them along these edge beds. I'm really thinking these are mostly going to be perennials, and then maybe I'll throw zinnia seeds in them every year so that I'm not having to keep digging these up. I had planted some dahlias in here last year, which looked really nice, but was a little bit of a pain having to dig them out and try not to damage my perennial bulbs like my tulips and my crocus that are in here. So trying to change things up as I go and think this through a little better each year. Some of these hyacinth bulbs are teeny tiny. That's smaller than my pinky fingernail. So I'm just gonna plant them along in here. I'm not expecting them to bloom this year, but this is just a much better spot for them. They're going to get way more sun than they have in the front of the house, and they're not going to be getting mauled by chickens and children. Those hyacinths planted, there's actually about 50 to 70 bulbs. That was more than I expected. Now I'm back in the corner of my garden where I have the elderberry bushes or trees. This is the shadier area of my garden, so I'm putting more shade-loving plants in here. There's a little nook off to the side that I kind of picture like a bird bath in, and maybe a little bistro table and chair, so I can sit in that corner in the shade and kind of overlook the garden and all of its awesomeness, which is yet to come because it's a hot mess. I say that all the time. It just is. Recently, I planted some bleeding hearts in here. I don't see them coming up yet, but high hopes because I really love bleeding hearts and I wanted to plant some last year, but by the time I got around to the stores with everything going on, they were all gone. So this year was the year. But this is where I'm going to be planting those hostas that I dug up in front, because this was the initial expansion space in the garden, and other than the elderberries, all that was back here was black raspberries. And even though I've cardboarded and mulched and mulched and mulched, they still break through a little bit. I'm assuming they will for many, many years, but kind of covering the ground with things that are hardy and spread easily like the hostas and do well in shade is really going to help this area and help me not have to dig up so many of those darn raspberries. So I'm going to start under these elderberries and then over those ones, and I'll see if I get to digging up the hostas in the front today or not, because it is raining a little bit and it's cold. All right, so here you can see I've got a few hostas in there. I did end up bringing some of that ground cover that I liked up in here, and then I also have a little bit of the ground cover in here, and here's some more of the new hostas. I also have ferns that'll grow up in here, and another type of hosta, and a little bit more ground cover. This section is pretty open. This is where I was thinking of having the bird waterer and like a little seating area. So I planted there and there, but I'm gonna try and keep the middle open. I've got some pavers. Maybe I need to bring in and try and get this area defined for that, but I can't decide if I want pavers and a spot for the table, or if I just want the ground to be completely covered in all the plants and the table is just kind of plopped in the middle of those. We'll figure that out when I get there. Over here, I do need to take these off. I've been waiting. My mother-in-law gave me some broccoli plants, and I've been using some of my buckets to keep them covered up at night. So this was my tomato trellis last year. It was over here. I've done a lot of rearranging that I haven't shown you guys, but I dug this up. It was right here. Moved it over here. I redid the area these two beds were in. I have peas and spinach and lettuce, and obviously the broccoli planted in this one right now. There's nothing in this one. I think I'm going to use the old clothesline wood pieces and then hang up the cattle panel trellis behind that and possibly get a second one, and this might be the spot for my climbing beans. I don't need to worry about that for a while, so I just kind of have it laid out now. What else have I done? I started lining out this bed more. Remember, this is the side that slopes really badly, so I really need to define these beds better this year if I want to have a successful growing season. So we pulled up more rocks, and I've started bringing them around, kind of eyeballing where this one's gonna go. I want this gate was at the end of the fence line, so initially it would have lined up with where that post is, and there would have been a bed for flowers all along here. But because we've expanded and changed it, I don't want flowers there. So this is not a straight line. It's kind of going to curve out a little bit until they line up. See, this one ends here and that one starts there. So I would have had to bring that bed out to here, but I'll make it work when I get it over there. I planted some sweet peas, like the flower here. Those are toxic. I had them on the edge of the fence last year, and none of the animals or kids mess with them, but I just figured this year I'll just put them inside the garden to be safe. And I also planted some more of the sweet pea flowers on these two trellises here and here. I have started working on my strawberry beds. I am determined to not let them become a weedy mess this year. So as you can see, this side is almost done. I have a little circle right there I still need to get mulch in, but I raked all the leaves off, weeded, and put down mulch. And let me tell you, this was a project. It took a day per side because I'm dropping down mulch a handful at a time to make sure I'm not burying the strawberries that are already in there. So I've kind of started on this side. I raked up some of the leaves. I've pulled up some of the bigger weeds, but my back was so sore after the other side. I'm going to take it a lot easier with this side and just kind of work on it a little bit at a time. My garlic is looking really good. I did have to go through and save some bulbs. The mulch had just gotten deep in a few spots, and some of these were not able to dig themselves out. So I dug them out, well, dug the foliage out, and they should be fine after they get a bit of sunlight. And then I have asparagus coming up, a decent amount of it. I'm trying to decide what I want to do with it tonight because it's going to get down to freezing. I could put buckets over these because most of them are still tiny, but then I have one. What are you barking at, Max? I don't see anything. Oh, he sees. Not sure if you can see that. It's a crane though. It's nothing to worry about, Max. Good boy. I do have this asparagus. This is my biggest one. Not a meal, but maybe if I harvest the little ones with it. So many choices. I'll probably end up eating it. I can't help myself. But that is what's going on in the garden. I will go show you some updates that we've been working on for the greenhouse. It's not constructed yet, not even close, but we're getting some more things. Oh, I gotta show you my clematis is really taking off this year. If you'll remember last year, I was about to get a bloom and then the horses nipped it off and I was really, really sad. So I think I'm going to get some more of these extending wire posts and put them along here and run another row of hot wire so that if I have any trying to bloom on that side, they're not eating them. This was here last year because I had sunflowers here and they were sticking their heads through this top wire and this and pulling up my sunflowers and eating them. So when I added that second row of electric, it helped save my sunflowers. So I'm thinking I'll do the same thing over here and that should help save the clematis as well. Although I'll have to do that one a bit lower, I think, or maybe I'll have to do multiple as it climbs. We'll see. But all right, I will stop talking and go show you what's going on with the greenhouse stuff because my fingers are absolutely freezing from digging in the dirt, which is very wet because it's been raining pretty constantly for the last week and it's only in the 30s right now. So this has been the biggest update on the greenhouse. So we have been really going back and forth about how we're going to build this exactly. We've thought about, pouring a cement floor, doing, sunken beams that are cemented in, and then a rock floor or a paver floor, or yes, chicken, doing cinder blocks stacked 2 or 3 high so that I could build raised beds right up to the outside of the garden or of the greenhouse and insulate it a little bit. But then one of my really good friends has a hookup for these industrial pallets. This is 6 by 12. It is solid. It will need to be waterproofed because it's not waterproof at all, but this would make an amazing greenhouse base. Now 6 by 12 is not the size I wanted. Initially I was thinking I wanted 10 by 12, but if I put 2 of these together, because we do have the possibility of getting more, that will be a 12 by 12 base. So we're thinking, so long as we can get more of these, put 2 of them together and that'll be the greenhouse base. And then hopefully we can get even more of them to deconstruct and use for other pieces of the greenhouse, sides and supports and such, because wood is priced so high right now. I was honestly thinking we were going to have to cancel the greenhouse build for this year because I don't want to drop $1,000 on wood for the greenhouse that's supposed to be very cheap. So if this keeps going well for us, if we get more of these, this is going to save the greenhouse project, and I'm really excited about it. Now we have added more glass to our greenhouse glass collection, and excitingly enough, I was finally able to score some for free. So this big sliding glass door, double paned, we got for free, and these two are also double paned, we got for free. Now these two, you can see, are really opaque because the steel in them has been broken, but this is double pane. We're going to, there's a little vibrating tool that you get that you can run along, obviously after the frame is off, in the seam and separate them. So we're gonna do it. These were free, you know, we'll test it out. If we break it, not the end of the world because it was free. But that would give me 4 huge pieces of glass, and then I may end up splitting this one as well because I'm just not a huge fan of this door. You can't really see it, but there's like plastic inside of it to make it look like it's got, I don't know, it's supposed to make it look interesting, but it doesn't. And then this brown window, I'm not sure if you can see, it's another double pane, but it opens, and I got that for like 25 bucks from the Habitat for Humanity store. So now I have 3 large windows that open. I would still like to get some smaller ones to go up in the top, but I have a ton of glass for my greenhouse, especially if we can successfully split those. So that's really exciting. So here's what the strawberry bed's looking like. They've really perked up. They are happy, if you can see it through through the chicken wire, but they're doing great. So far so good. So far nothing has dug underneath, but you know, strawberry foliage isn't nearly as interesting as actual strawberries. So once they start to fruit in a few months will be the big test on if I should have put hardware cloth on the bottom or not. But so far so good.